So now we're going to move on to our second segment on engaging CALD men as allies in prevention. Many projects are aiming to do gender transformative work with men in this area, and we'll be looking at two main insights around this. The first is to promote positive family relationships and gender equality in non-judgmental spaces for CALD men. And the second is, from the outset of grant funding, invest in capacity building on gender transformative and culturally safe prevention work with men in CALD communities. Well, we're now looking at an example video from Save the Children Western Australia about how they engage men and boys in prevention focus groups and workshops. Don't forget to submit your questions while the video plays.
Okay, so Maria has asked us to present on our project for the webinar. So my name's Danielle.
And my name is Margaret.
And we're from the Strength to Strength CALD PART project through Save the Children, which was based in the city of Gosnells.
So the Strength to Strength worked with at three levels of the community. At Tier 1, we worked with 19 men from African backgrounds.
In Tier 2, we worked with young people aged between 11 and 16 from Afghan, Burundi and Arabic speaking backgrounds.
Yeah, and at Tier 3 we worked with young people, so we delivered school workshops, primary prevention workshops in 2 schools, and then 2 schools had a high population of young people from CALD backgrounds. So at Tier 1 we engaged 19 men, so the 19 men were recruited through our contracted facilitator. And what worked well, we had a high level of engagement in our focus group discussions. We engaged them in focus group discussions over 12 weeks. And one of the things that worked really well was the fact that the facilitator was from the same cultural and religious backgrounds as the men.
So we started conversations around primary prevention. We did encounter resistance around women's equality and violence against women.
Yeah, so what we were moving forward, there's need to keep on focusing on changing attitudes towards gender inequalities amongst men when working with men. Yeah.
So Tier 2 was a weekly after-school program, and again we experienced high levels of engagement from the young people.
Yeah, at least within the first term of implementing the program, we had a participation of at least 90%, and throughout the program, over 80% of the participants did participate in the program. And we also made some impacts. Our evaluation data indicates that there was some level of changes in beliefs and perceptions. For example, by the end of the program, most of the boys had rejected the statements that it's okay to share photos and texts and videos of women or girls online to scare them. And we also worked with the mums.
Yeah, so the mums reported noticing increased levels of independence and confidence at home with their sons, and also offering to help with household chores.
Yeah, and beyond that, beyond just achieving the outcomes of the project, the boys felt that it was a safe space. We provided a safe space for them to engage in conversations around relationship ethics, to form friendships, and to connect with the Australian life through the facilitators.
Yeah, so I will leave you with a few words from one of the young people.
Before joining Strength to Strength program, I didn't know anything about insecurity, really. I thought it's like men are rough, they are strong, they can do anything, they can run the family whatever way they want. That's all I knew before joining Strength to Strength program. The stereotype is like men never cry, but they do. Like they say that men are not weak, they are strong. But according to me, yes, they are. They are not superhumans, yeah. They are like a normal person who can cry, who can do whatever they want. But this stereotype is like they should not do it. It was not a program. It was like more like a family. We had good sisters who would always advise us and show us the right way, like Daniel, Lisa, and Laura. We had nice brothers who would show us how to deal with your stress, how to treat others nicely, how to be respectful. Who were Kwaka, Joseph, and all the multicultural boys who were in our program. I think it was a golden chance for me to get to spend my time with them. I learned from them. I learned skills. I learned how to speak. I learned many things.
You Save the Children WA and their project participant for that wonderful video, highlighting the importance of targeting different age groups and the importance of bicultural facilitation in ensuring a supportive space for engaging CALD men in prevention. Now, Seble, I know that your project had quite a lot of engagement with bicultural facilitation and used that to ensure a supportive space. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Thanks, Maria. Yes, our project is Mind Managing Change Program. It's a pilot project for men support group. It's tailored to support men based on their interest and hobby to create a safe space to connect. And for this, I think the bicultural workers are vitally useful in this, and especially themselves, because we use male facilitator on that, we make sure they are actually themselves, they have a right attitude and also behavioral change in terms of gender. So they were being very, very instrumental from the recruitment of participants and also through the program being there as agents to facilitate that conversation. On that also we had not bicultural workers also assisted by the facilitator from the legal space, how men was felt during our community conversation. We ran a men group to discuss about what their understanding in family conflict and also family violence, and that we identified there is a gap how they understand domestic family violence. So we, especially from the legal point of view, and they felt more betrayed in the society where they come. They will have good for life, but they felt differently. And because of that, bicultural worker was facilitating addressing some of the issues through the help of their rights. So Refugee Legal Service was being facilitating the legal side of it, what's their right also, but also what's their responsibility in this country, in their new home. Through that, in the beginning there was a resistance and also more just one-sided and externalize the problem. But through along the discussion, it's a 10-week, but actively the conversation was 8 weeks. But we also, after that, we develop other materials in terms of they're changing through time, through that conversation from the space which we provide. The bicultural worker was there as a facilitator from making cooking and also going through, some if they're independent on their interests, they go to the woodwork and also playing pool and just more feeling that their space. So the biculture was playing a big role on that and make them, the participants, feel welcome and safe.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I know you touched there on that there was some resistance in your project to gender equality messages, and that was something that SCCWA as well referred to in their video. What else did you do to address that resistance and address, the feelings of a lost identity that they faced? And I know that you also worked with women in your community conversations as well. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, through because the resistance along the beginning of the project was mapped what is the strength in a community, what's the threat or the gaps between the service providers and also the community, but also the gap of knowledge, how domestic family violence was being understood in the community. So through that, we had a main group only who have a discussion on that, but also women, both together, husband and wife came together. So through that, we were being, there's a long resistance because they felt very betrayal by the partner or by the service. This is not the place for them and they don't have rights. So they don't expect much change. All this was being kind of in the the information they have is being framed, which is it's a women's country, it's not my country. It's being threats their identity. But what we did is through conversation saying, okay, we all choose to be here to have a good life and to continue to have our family. How can we actually, address that? Because we know in one way or another way our behavior as individual we have to take. So those challenge was we reflect back to the participants to just see through. They have also this country, the law is for men and women, and each individual have to look at through their own behavior and what's their contribution to make it their life better and to make it their family's life safe. So through that, there was a trust developed through time, especially in the managing change program, because some of our activities was being, tailored to just cook their own meal after the activity, and that made a biocultural worker also as a participant who have a better view and things, they shaping each other. So that once they know that the place is for them to just make it things better and also look at themselves and then what's their role in that. It is developed through time. The trust is being, built on that. But there is a huge resistance. But also giving enough time, especially in the community conversation space, we give enough time for a community. We weren't rushed too much when we, rather than ask just on our time, but we choose their time. So we go to the church, we go to a mosque and their birthday place, wherever there is a comfort for a community to relax and speak and take action. So that helped us to overcome.
Thank you, Seble, for answering that question on resistance. I was also wondering, Dipti, if you wanted to comment on this and how your project responded to resistance when engaging CALD men in prevention.
Thanks, Maria. One thing that we learned during our project and even as we progress is we need to be real when we work with communities, and resistance is a part of this reality. And we did have instances of resistance, especially coming from the men in the community. And it was a humbling experience, especially when you think that things are going smooth, you build a trust, and you're just going to have smooth sailing, and the resistance comes and just like hits you, and you almost get back to square one. And one thing that I personally learned was I can't try and fix it myself, the resistance that we face, and it had to be jointly addressed collaboratively with the community. And one specific instance when we did have resistance, and I had to actually step back and allow it to kind of unfold, and then go back to the community and jointly decide how to address it. And what we decided to do was ignore it at that particular stage, because that was not the right space to kind of address it or fight it or defend it. And then we went back to the community and discussed with them and reopened the discussion. It was just magical to see that the community supports you, and since you do have champions who agree with you, who are on your side, and we addressed the situation and things went fine. So the particular individual involved had to be spoken to, and we decided to disagree, but majority of the stakeholders in the community was okay for us to progress. So we essentially agreed to disagree, but opened opportunities to dialogue and to debate and to address the issues that were raised.